August 4th, 2024, 7:38 p.m. UTC. Suddenly, a grainy clip appears in a small, overlooked corner of Reddit. Then, like wildfire, it spreads. Twitter/X, Discord servers, even encrypted Telegram groups. You blink, and it's everywhere. Within minutes, hashtags spike. Hashtag NASA unseen. Hashtag forbidden footage. Skyrocketing into the global trending list. Screens glow in dark bedrooms as thousands scroll, replay, gasp. What's drawing them in? A silent, flickering feed from a NASA mission. Shapes moving where nothing should be. The original poster claims this was never meant for public eyes until now. For one electric moment, everyone who clicks in is seeing history happen in real time. Watching what the world's greatest space agency either missed or never wanted revealed. The chatter escalates. Is it a glitch, a joke, or something impossible? You're watching it as it breaks. But just how significant is this leak? And what can we confirm? This isn't the first time NASA footage has escaped into the wild, slipping past layers of clearance and protocol. Take a look back at the STS-48 shuttle mission, where a 1991 video clip captured glowing orbs darting around the shuttle, igniting a frenzy that still fuels debate. Or the NROL-10 incident, when classified satellite data surfaced in unexpected places, reminding everyone that even the most secure agencies can falter. According to NASA's own public affairs policies, every image and video from active missions is carefully vetted before release, overseen by teams who understand the gravity of global scrutiny. Yet, as NPR's Jeff Brumfield once observed, information wants to leak. Especially when it's this interesting. NASA spokesperson Allard Budel has openly acknowledged the organization's commitment to transparency, but admits that not everything is immediately made public. The very existence of strict NASA declassification protocols is proof. Some discoveries are held close, others slip through. These rare leaks don't just stoke curiosity, they unsettle procedures built for a cautious public. So, where did this latest, most unsettling video come from? And what exactly does it show? To understand what makes this footage so jarring, you have to trace its path from deep within NASA's labyrinthine operations out to a million screens in the wild. The video itself, according to emerging chatter across Reddit and Discord, was allegedly captured during a late July 2024 pass of the Artemis 4 mission, which has been orbiting lunar space, collecting high-priority geological and environmental data for the next stage of human exploration. The raw data, by routine, funnels through NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, where every frame undergoes a meticulous review. PR specialists, mission command, and data scientists all comb for anomalies, technology glitches, even moments that could mislead the public or jeopardize astronaut privacy. NASA's official media release workflow, as detailed in their public guidelines, is built on layers of sign-off. No photo, no video, slips through without multiple checks. We never want to create panic or misrepresent what our missions actually confront, said Dr. Kim Taylor, Deputy Imaging Scientist on Artemis, in a March 2024 NASA Q&A. Sensitive findings, especially anything unexplained, get flagged for a special internal review before wider release. Most of the time, that means odd shadows, stray cosmic rays, or technical hiccups never move beyond a secure folder. But not this time. According to investigative diggers on Reddit's r/space and Twitter space journalists, the file in question was posted initially by an account known only as Lunar Witness, with a track record of sharing accurate pre-release mission images from NASA feeds. Their profile reveals little but hints at a European time zone and a background in astrophysics, echoed by previous deep dive threads that have accurately predicted past mission timings. No real name, no confirmed NASA link. Just a record of credibility, strong enough that the file went viral within hours. Was it an inside whistleblower, a stealthy data breach, or an accidental upload that vanished from NASA's archive before explanation could catch up? What's clear is this: for something to leap out of NASA's tightly managed orbit and into public chaos, it had to bypass or be released by someone who knew exactly what and how to leak. The result? A fragment of the unknown, slipped through procedural fingers, now pushed into the hands of anyone with a curiosity deep enough to click play. Now let's look .fr aim by frame at exactly what's inside this footage. It was captured on March 4, 2023, during a routine Crew Dragon resupply approach to the International Space Station, a mission logged, cataloged, and largely forgotten by the public until a Freedom of Information Act request surfaced the raw downlink footage 11 months later. The camera angle is fixed. Earth's curvature fills the lower third of the frame, a blue-white rim against the black. And then, at the 0:17 mark, something enters from the upper left. It doesn't drift, it doesn't tumble, it decelerates. The object holds a near-perfect disk profile for roughly 6 frames, approximately 0.2 seconds at 30 frames per second, before executing what imaging analysts are calling a non-ballistic lateral displacement, a sideways translation with no visible exhaust plume, no rotational wobble, no thermal bloom. It then disappears behind the orbital horizon in a straight-line trajectory inconsistent with any known debris decay pattern. The first thing you do with footage like this is run it through frame interpolation to eliminate compression artifacts, said Dr. Sarah Hurst, a planetary scientist at Johns Hopkins who reviewed the clip at the request of an independent aerospace transparency group. What's left, when you strip out the noise, is an object exhibiting controlled motion. That's not something orbital debris does. The pixel-by-pixel breakdown is damning in its specificity. Independent imaging analyst Mark D'Antonio, a former chief photo and video analyst for the Mutual UFO Network with contracts in military imaging, identified 3 distinct anomalies in the raw luminance data. First, a hard-edged silhouette with 0 atmospheric diffraction halo, suggesting the object is closer to the lens than ISS proximity objects typically appear. Second, a brightness curve inconsistent with sunlit metal or composite materials at that orbital angle. And third, motion vectors that, when mapped against the station's known velocity of 7.66 kilometers per second, imply the object was either stationary relative to Earth's surface, physically impossible for an unpowered object at that altitude, or accelerating away from the station at a rate that exceeds any classified American propulsion system on public record. This is the moment the footage breaks from the explainable. NASA's official response, issued through a public affairs spokesperson, was 7 words. The footage is under standard post-mission review. No timeline, no elaboration. The agency's own UAP independent study team, formed in 2022 and disbanded in 2024, had explicitly noted in its final report that sensor data from crewed missions represents a significant gap in our current reporting framework. In plain English, they built a task force to investigate this problem, dissolved it, and now have no active mechanism to explain what their own cameras are recording. You are watching footage that trained orbital mechanics engineers cannot account for. You are watching something that NASA's own disbanded task force was specifically designed to investigate and didn't finish the job. You're seeing what even NASA won't explain. On February 25, 1996, Space Shuttle Columbia's STS-75 mission deployed the tethered satellite system, a 12.5-mile conducting wire designed to generate electricity through Earth's magnetic field. The tether snapped, and the camera recording its drift captured something that still circulates in aerospace circles 30 years later: dozens of large, disc-shaped objects moving behind the severed cable, some appearing to pulse, several executing curved trajectories around it. The tether's known diameter allowed researchers to calculate rough object sizes. Estimates ranged from 50 to 100 feet across. NASA's explanation: ice crystals and orbital debris caught in the camera's out-of-focus field. The object's apparent size, they noted, was a lens artifact. Dr. James Oberg, a former NASA mission controller and one of the most rigorous UFO debunkers working today, largely concurred, pointing out that unfocused particles close to a wide-angle lens can mimic precisely the pulsing disk profiles captured in the footage. Case, if not closed, at least contained. Then there were the Apollo 11 radio silences, specifically the 2-minute communication blackout during the lunar approach on July 20th, 1969, that spawned decades of speculation after former NASA employee Otto Binder claimed in 1979 that amateur radio operators had intercepted a suppressed transmission describing large objects on the crater rim. No verifiable recording of that transmission has ever surfaced. NASA's explanation is signal dropout during antenna switching. SETI Institute senior astronomer Seth Shostak has called the claim a game of telephone played over 50 years. The DoD-UAP videos are harder to dismiss on procedural grounds. The three declassified clips, FLIR-1, Gimbal, and Go Fast, released officially in April 2020 after years of unauthorized circulation, were authenticated by the Pentagon, analyzed by the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, and remain, as of this writing, officially unexplained. David Fravor, the Navy commander who witnessed the Tic Tac encounter underlying FLIR-1, has never wavered in 37 media appearances. The object had no wings, no exhaust, no control surfaces, and outran F/A-18 Super Hornets while executing maneuvers that, in his words, would have killed a pilot. So, how does the current ISS footage stack up against this lineage? The prior cases gave skeptics somewhere to stand, said Dr. Matthew Bothwell, public astronomer at the University of Cambridge and author of The Invisible Universe, Ice Crystals, Lens Artifacts, Classified Aircraft. There was always a ladder of alternative explanations. What's different here is that the motion data has been stripped of the usual ambiguities. The debunker's toolkit is lighter. This is the chilling part, not the object itself, but the absence of the usual exits. The STS-75 footage could be explained by optics. The Apollo silences never produced authenticated audio. The DoD clips showed military sensors with known processing artifacts. The March 2023 ISS footage has been run through the same artifact correction pipeline used to validate commercial satellite imaging, and the anomalous motion vectors survive it. Every prior incident handed investigators a way out. This one hasn't. Within 72 hours of the ISS footage circulating on social platforms, NASA's public inquiry inbox received what an agency spokesperson described in a brief statement to Space News as an atypical volume of safety-related questions from the general public. The phrasing was careful, bureaucratic, distancing, but the questions themselves, scraped from public Reddit threads, X posts, and Facebook groups where the footage was being reshared, were not careful at all. Is the ISS actually safe to operate right now? Why does NASA keep cutting the live feed every time something appears? Should we be worried about what's in low Earth orbit? These are not fringe questions from conspiracy forums. They appeared in threads started by aerospace engineering students, by parents of children in NASA education programs, by amateur astronomers who had spent decades defending the agency's credibility in comment sections. The footage had traveled past the UAP community and landed somewhere more unsettling, among people who trusted NASA instinctively and were now, for the first time, genuinely unsure. The FAA's 2023 Orbital Safety Advisory, a public document updated annually to address debris conjunction risks for commercial launches, notes that uncharacterized objects in low Earth orbit represent an escalating risk category, specifically because untracked objects cannot be avoided by station-keeping maneuvers. That language was written about debris, but in the weeks after the footage surfaced, it was being screenshot and shared alongside the ISS clip as though it had been written about something else entirely. Retired astronaut Terry Virts, who logged 213 days aboard the ISS across 2 missions, posted a measured but telling response on X. I've seen plenty of unexplained things in orbit. Most have explanations that come later, some don't. The honest answer is, we don't always know. It accumulated 84,000 likes in 48 hours. The engagement wasn't because people found it alarming, it was because they found it honest, a quality that felt in that moment scarce. That scarcity is the real injury here. Not fear of extraterrestrial threat, not panic about orbital safety, but the slow erosion of confidence in the institutions built to tell us what is and isn't up there. SETI researcher Dr. Natalie Cabrol, speaking broadly about public trust in science communication, has noted that unexplained phenomena don't frighten people as much as the sense that someone is deciding what they're allowed to know. The footage didn't break anyone's sense of reality. It broke something quieter, the assumption that reality was being reliably reported to them. It surfaced during what may be the most consequential period of institutional reckoning with unidentified aerial phenomena in the history of organized spaceflight. In September 2023, NASA published its independent UAP study report, the first of its kind commissioned by the agency, and its conclusions were striking not for what they confirmed, but for what they admitted, that existing sensor networks were not designed to detect or characterize anomalous phenomena, that data sharing between civilian and military agencies remained fragmented, and that the stigma surrounding UAP reporting had created systemic gaps in the scientific record. The report stopped short of extraordinary claims. It did not stop short of extraordinary admissions. The Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, has logged over 800 reports since its formation in 2022. In its 2024 Historical Record Review, declassified in February of that year, AARO found no verified evidence of extraterrestrial craft or biologics in U.S. government possession. What it did find was decades of compartmentalized programs, inconsistent record-keeping, and a classification architecture that made it structurally difficult for analysts in one agency to access data held by another. The system, in other words, was not built for transparency. It was built for containment. On the legislative side, the pressure has been building in parallel. The Gillibrand-Rubio UAP Disclosure Amendment, attached to the 2024 National Defense Authorization Act, mandated that the executive branch declassify and release UAP-related records within 25 years, with a government-appointed review board modeled on the JFK Records Act process. It passed. It has not yet produced significant new releases, but the mechanism now exists, and advocates have noted that its passage represented the first time Congress formally encoded UAP transparency as a national interest rather than a fringe concern. SpaceX's expanding fleet of Starlink satellites, now numbering over 6,000 in low Earth orbit, has introduced a new and largely unexamined variable, private imaging infrastructure operating with minimal government oversight and no formal UAP reporting obligation. What Starlink's sensors may have captured and what protocols govern the retention or disclosure of that data is not publicly known. And then there is the AI problem. Dr. Hani Farid, a digital forensics expert at UC Berkeley and a leading authority on image authentication, has warned that AI-generated video has reached a threshold where the tools used to detect manipulation are losing ground to the tools used to create it. In practical terms, within 2 to 3 years, footage like the ISS clip may be impossible to authenticate or debunk by imaging analysis alone. The window for credible visual evidence, he argues, is closing, which means the moment we are in right now, uncertain, contested, unresolved, may be the last moment in which footage like this can carry any evidentiary weight at all. Here is Act 8, Payoff, approximately 350 words. Act 8, The Terror That Looks Like Wonder. There is a photograph taken on February 14, 1990, from 3.7 billion miles away. Carl Sagan asked for it, lobbied NASA for years to turn Voyager 1's camera back toward home before the probe passed beyond the solar system's edge. What it captured was Earth as a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam, the pale blue dot. Sagan's reflection on that image remains perhaps the most precise description of what it feels like to genuinely reckon with scale. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. Not terrifying, not reassuring, something larger than both. The first Hubble Deep Field, released in January 1996, produced a similar rupture, a patch of sky the size of a grain of sand held at arm's length, chosen specifically because it appeared to contain nothing, resolved into approximately 3,000 galaxies. Astronomers wept, not from fear, from the particular vertigo of understanding something true about the universe for the first time. Astronauts have a name for what happens when that vertigo arrives in person. The overview effect, first described by writer Frank White in 1987 and corroborated by virtually every astronaut who has articulated the experience, is the cognitive shift that occurs when a human being sees Earth from orbit without glass between themselves and the view. Edgar Mitchell, Apollo 14 lunar module pilot, described it as an instant global consciousness, not a political position, a perceptual one. Jill Tarter, the astronomer whose career-long search for extraterrestrial intelligence inspired the film Contact, has said that the search itself, regardless of outcome, forces us to think about who we are and what we are in a way nothing else does. That is what the ISS footage has done, whatever it turns out to be. Terrifying and transformative share an origin. Both arrive at the edge of what we thought we knew. Both require us, in the end, to take a step we hadn't planned. You've seen the footage now. You've seen what the analysts found, what the experts couldn't explain, what NASA hasn't answered, and Congress is only beginning to legislate. So here's the question that actually matters. If you were the one who pulled this file, if your name was on the FOIA request, if the 41 seconds landed in your inbox at 2 a.m., what would you do? Would you sit on it? Weigh the risk, the ridicule, the institutional blowback? Or would you share it, knowing that some questions are too large to stay private? That the cost of silence might be higher than the cost of being wrong? This footage may resolve into something ordinary, a classified satellite, a sensor artifact nobody bothered to document. It has happened before, and it will happen again. Or it doesn't resolve. And everything we think we know about what shares this orbit with us requires a quiet, permanent revision. Either way, the question is now yours too. If this changes how you think about what's above us, leave it in the comments. Like and subscribe if you want to be in the room when the next file drops. There's one more piece of context you need to know. This isn't a new pattern, it's an accelerating one. In 1965, Gemini 7 astronauts reported an unidentified bogey during orbital pass, logged, classified, released decades later without formal explanation. In 2004, the Cassini probe captured thermal anomalies on Enceladus that rewrote the possibility of subsurface liquid water and life in the outer solar system. In 2021, the Pentagon confirmed the legitimacy of UAP footage that had circulated unofficially for 15 years. The Europa Clipper, currently en route to Jupiter's ice moon, will conduct its first close flyby in 2030. Scanning an ocean, scientists believe, holds more liquid water than all of Earth's combined. Artemis 3, targeting a crewed lunar South Pole landing, will operate in permanently shadowed craters no human instrument has ever directly examined. Thousands of hours of mission footage remain unreviewed, unclassified, or simply unexamined in NASA's archival holdings. The question isn't whether another revelation is coming, it's whether 2026 is finally the year we're paying close enough attention to catch it.